Welcome to the Dynasty Dummies podcast. I am Zach Reed. I am joined again this week by JMic and Matt Foreman, and we are sashaying around the Dynasty Dummies 2023 Rookie Hootenanny. It's the second six of the wide receivers this week, and we've got some interesting players to talk about. I know this class has been bandied about as being not so great, but I think we got some interesting players to talk about in this second six. JMic and Matt, how are you guys doing this evening?
I am well, Zach. I'm excited to be here as usual. I think we've got some interesting players to talk about here. Definitely some players that I liked more than I thought I was going to. I think the problem with not the problem with these guys is what's their upside.
Yes.
So we'll see there. I think we've got a lot of fine players here. I don't know how many great players we have.
Really unique set here of players. I'm really interested to see not just how we value these players in terms of what we saw, but also how does the NFL really like these guys come rookie drafts in the NFL draft. And I think that's going to be a really fascinating find because there might be a player or two here that perhaps becomes a useful fantasy player. But listen, this is week 2 of the Dynasty Dummies Rookie Hootenanny. For those who are new to the program, welcome. We're happy to have you. It's an absolute treat and a joy and a privilege that we would be considered to be someone that you would listen to, that you would leverage to burn up some time before picking up the kids from daycare, before you fall asleep at night, as you prepare for your rookie drafts. We don't take this for granted, so we appreciate you. For the folks who've been riding with us for a very long time, we appreciate y'all too. Thank you for the support. I'm sure that there was tons of folks who reached out and showed love to us. I've been staying a little underground as we continue to navigate this space and time, but I'm excited to get into the second set of 6 wide receivers that we have on slate tonight. So I'll even do a quick rundown for everyone. Last week, we had a ton of fun being able to go through the first set of 6. We're operating from the good folks over at dynastyleaguefootball.com, their rankings that were as of February the 14th, Valentine's Day, 2023. So we're just working our way down their rankings from that time. And obviously, when we get to the end of this show today, we'll talk through how we have them ranked. We might even sprinkle in how we have them mixed in with the first set of 6. And we'll go from there. Gentlemen, before we get into the nuts and bolts, before we really get into the meat of this thing, any other table setting that we need to do before we get to it?
I don't have very much this week. I do think, and Matt made a really intelligent point about the upside for wide receivers. And not only when you think about these wide receivers that we're going to talk about, but also when you start to look at your rookie drafts. As a general rule, these guys are probably going to end up in the second round or third round or fourth round of your rookie drafts. And when you start to look at players that far back and think about how you're going to draft and what your team looks like, I think it's important to understand the upside of running backs back there and how if you're going to draft a later round wide receiver, you better be really sure that they have a chance to have some of that home run swing, some of that serious upside. And there are a couple of these guys who I think fit that mold. But again, something to be thinking about. Peter Howard dropped the statistic yesterday when I was on the Dynasty grind with him that it's a 27% hit rate, wide receivers and running backs in the second round, but it's pretty consistent with running backs. Every year it's about 3 running back. It's 27%. With wide receivers, it's all or nothing. So you'll have some years where it'll be, 66% of the second round hits, and then you'll have years where it is a drought and there is nothing. And so again, something to keep in mind with these players, while we talk about them, listen for that big ceiling, that potential to put up some fantasy points for you, because we may like some of these players all right, but they may not be quite what you're looking for to draft in the later rounds of your upcoming rookie drafts.
Very well said. Foreman, any final things that we need to do? Washing our hands, placemats are set, silverware is shining, buffed up. Any last words here?
No, I think Zach did a great job with the coverage there. Again, just I think all these guys are probably going to end up in the second, maybe in the early part of the third round. But obviously, draft capital is going to be huge for these guys. But hey, you know what I mean. I drafted Cooper Kupp in the fourth round of a 14-team league before. So again, you're going to find those gems, but don't be counting on them.
Yeah,
That was me falling bass backwards into Cooper Kupp. So.
And just to clarify, Foreman's talking about the second and third rounds of our Dynasty rookie drafts. Just to be clear, I want people walking away from this, trying to aggregate. Foreman saying all these guys are taken in the second and third round of NFL rookie drafts. One last piece that I'll throw out as well. Again, in the event that you're new to the program, I just want to clarify, we do this for the fun of it. We love being able to go in, watch the film. We've been doing this for several years now to be able to see the things that translate really well to the NFL, or at least for the sake of production for our fantasy football teams. We're not professional scouts. We're just telling you what we see, and we're being respectful about it and enjoying the process as we do it. So if there's something that you don't love or you're not jiving with necessarily that we say, we always encourage you, do your own work. Do the work, dive into the film yourself, or dive into trusted names and trusted resources to leverage. Have a lot of fun with this. And we hope that we can be part of that circle of trust that you develop as well. Food has been blessed. Let's get to it. First up on the evening, picking up essentially what would have been wide receiver 7 from those DLF rankings from February the 14th. The 5'10" speedster out of Boston College, Zay Flowers. Zay being someone who essentially got a ton of playing time over the last several years. He's appeared in almost 50 games for Boston College. He's finished with over 3,000 total receiving yards, and his final season, his senior year in 2022, was his finest. 78 catches, 1,077 yards, and 12 touchdowns, which was good enough in terms of receiving touchdowns to lead the ACC. We see a guy in Zay Flowers be able to do a lot of positive things for a program that simply does not have a lot of great things going for it. Shout out to our boy, Hunter Long. Please get well and start doing some things. We would appreciate it. Zach, coming over to you to get started as we talk through Zay Flowers.
Yeah, the 2023 class is populated by an abundance of undersized receivers who are most likely destined to play in the slot at the next level. And in order to separate from the crowd, a player might need to do something like, let's say, earning all ACC first team wide receiver honors, setting the BC single season mark in receiving touchdowns with 12, tying the record for receptions in a season with 78, producing the third most receiving yards in a single season in BC history. Zay Flowers did all that and garnered a semifinalist nod for the Biletnikoff Award for good measure. Although Flowers measured in 5'9", 182 pounds at the Shrine Bowl, he has big play ability. He has enough speed and polish as a route runner to win over the top versus both man and zone coverages. And Flowers is an excellent ball tracker. He's kind of got a little Brandon Cooks thing going on down the field, and I like that. On top of his straight line speed, Flowers is also a very sudden route runner. He's got the ability to create space over a short area. And once he's made a catch, the transition from receiver to runner is nearly instantaneous. Flowers is elusive with the ball, and that makes him a threat to create chunk plays, even on shorter throws, and score touchdowns.
Big play Big plays aplenty there for one Zay Flowers. Foreman, kicking it over to you. How do you feel about one Zay?
Yeah, I think Zay is an interesting wide receiver. He's someone who I'm not sure where exactly I'm going to have him in my rankings, just because he's definitely not what you'd be looking at as your prototypical receiver. Again, like Zach mentioned, a lot of these guys are undersized. I'm definitely going to put Zay in there. Some things that Zach didn't mention here. Just great with the ball in his hands. Just probably one of the two best guys with the ball in his hand. He's got a good release from inside and out. He can play all over the formation there as well too. He's sure-handed. He does great work against the sideline on multiple occasions there. And he's played with some less than spectacular quarterbacks as well too. He wasn't blessed to play with the same level of quarterbacks that we talked about earlier with Marvin Mims or who we talked about off air. We'll talk about later. But he just does a great job in space. He's just quick, sudden in route with the ball in his hands. I like him. I just don't know how much I like him.
So you like him, but not sure you want to put a ring on it or send him flowers or anything of that nature. Understood. Okay. I feel you there. Zay Flowers, super productive. Obviously, someone who's been able to get on the field a ton for BC over the last 4 seasons, a 4-year guy. Foreman, I'm coming right back to you when it comes to some of the things that you don't love about him. Listen, you didn't want to put a ring on it. Tell us why.
Yeah. Also, I'd be remiss in saying shout out to my good friend Jay Wayne. Zay Flowers did turn down a six-figure NIL contract that Mr. Wayne likes to mention every time we talk about him. So turned down 6-figure NIL deals to leave Boston College because he's a family man. So shout out to Zay for that. Got to put that in there. So I'm worried. My worry with Zay is obviously the size. I mentioned the release a little bit earlier, but I worry about him going against those bigger physical corners, especially on the outside. I think he can get bullied a bit there. One of the other things I didn't see was he caught a lot of touchdowns, but I don't know that I really saw him getting a lot of work in the red zone. So I don't know if that's him with just the way he works, or if that's more of a product of the Boston College offense that he was scoring from 20, 30 yards out. So he wasn't really having to worry about being in the red zone. But that also kind of makes me pause a bit from the upside perspective. But I think he's a great player. Everything that I've heard about him has been great. I know that good friend of the pod, Riley Bymaster, had nothing but great things to say about him while he was at the Shrine Bowl, and Zay was actually on the group of guys that Riley was with for the weekend. Riley has nothing but great things to say about Zay as not only as a football player, obviously, but as a human being as well. So someone you want to root for. I'm just not sure how much I'm going to be. Just don't know where I am my rooting interest for him in terms of how I feel he stacks up against these other wide receivers.
Yeah, shout out to Jay Wayne. Shout out to Riley. Definitely a couple of friends of the program, good folks that we enjoy time with too. Zach, kicking it over to you. How are you feeling about what is hopefully to be the new moniker? He wants to be big play Zay now. He wants this. What are your thoughts there on Flowers?
Well, unfortunately, Zay Flowers' size will probably dictate a more permanent move into the slot at the next level. Boston College was really proactive in trying to create scenarios where Flowers was already in motion at the snap to create advantages for him. So that's something to be wary of headed to the next level. His size is also a noticeable issue on downfield throws that are not put right on him. Flowers does not win well at the catch point, often being beaten by a defender's ability to get vertical. This is exacerbated by Flowers' tendency to let the ball travel to his body, leading to some avoidable pass drops and breakups. Flowers also has a bad habit of taking his route a step or two too far before making his break, which allows defenders to make contact with him and close that separation. And Matt, I think that's probably some of what you're talking about, where he's losing that physical battle. Part of it is because he gets just a step or two too close to the defender allows the defender to get hands. While most of the NFL tends to view slot receivers as interchangeable and replaceable, a good separator who drives volume, creates after the catch, and can get open in the red zone is invaluable for fantasy. While I think Zay Flowers is a step down from the top tier of receivers in the 2023 class, he could be a steal in the late first or early second of your rookie drafts this year.
And that will be by far one of the more fascinating things to track as we look at Zay Flowers. Is he going to be a guy, and this is just a question, I don't have the answer. Is Zay Flowers going to be the guy who we saw be able to drive volume, just like you said, be a 5'10 player, approximately 175, 180 pounds, drive targets at the collegiate level? Are we going to see him also be able to inject that same ability into an NFL offense? And with his, at many times, his inability to play bigger than his frame, that I think is going to be an interesting question as he transitions to the NFL.
It's the how much does he resemble Jamison Crowder? That's
Yes.
That's the question.
Yes, it'll be fascinating to track. On to the next one. This time we're heading down to SMU to be able to highlight one Rashee Rice, Southern Methodist University. I'm seeing him listed anywhere from about 6'1", 189 to 6'2", 203. So I'm really excited for the combine so we can actually understand, okay, how big is Rashee Rice really? Because still 6'1", 6'2", it's good size, 189, 203. Yes, all those things are nice. Are they inflated? We'll find out. His ability and his story, before we even get into the actual on-field product, simply a guy who worked year over year and was able to increase his production and become really a highlight for an SMU offensive passing game that really got busy, specifically in 2022. Over his 4 years at SMU, 25 catches, 48, 64, and then 96 in his senior season for 1,355 yards and 10 touchdowns. Rashee Rice, I'll already tell you right now, player that I'm really, really excited about. I don't know exactly how he's going to shake out by the time everything goes with the draft and everything else, but player that can make it happen at many levels of the field, and I'm excited to be able to see his prospects. Foreman, tell me, do you like Rashee Rice as much as I like Rashee Rice?
Is Rice this year's Romeo Dubs? I know you were a big Dubs guy last year. You love you some Romeo Dubs.
I'm gonna hold off on it. I do love me some Dubs. Just felt like he did everything really well.
Yeah.
I'll just say I like Rice, but we're
was
gonna
thinking-
hold off on that.
I was really hoping that my Tolbert, I was a big fan of Tolbert, and he was getting a lot of love preseason, and then fizzled, putting it lightly, for Dallas. Yeah. But on to Mr. Rice out of Dallas. I think Rice is an interesting player. He's got enough speed. He's a physical blocker. I just enjoy these receivers who can block. I don't know. I don't know what correlation there is there, but to me, it kind of speaks volumes to the work you're willing to put in when the ball's not in your hands. And I don't know how much the NFL values that. I don't know how much that it actually matters, but it matters to me, so I'm going to have to keep talking about it. He presents a great target. He is able to catch the ball away from his body consistently most of the time. He does a great job high point of the ball, which makes him a good weapon in the red zone. And I don't know if y'all watch any of his stuff from the Senior Bowl, but he kind of looked like he was more twitchy. He looked like a bit of a different player than what I saw on film during the regular season than what I did at the Senior Bowl. He was quick and out of his breaks. He did well against press. He wasn't pressed much in the regular season because I think people were worried about his speed. But he was very positively jittery at the Senior Bowl, and that wasn't it was definitely something that I wasn't seeing during the season as much, but something that I was happy to see at the Senior Bowl for something that was a little bit concerning to me. So obviously, when you want to put your best foot forward with that week down in Mobile, when the lights are brightest. So Rice is interesting to me. Again, I think all these guys are interesting. It's just how interesting does the NFL feel about him?
No doubt. And I would agree with you. I think he probably made himself a little bit of money down there in Mobile. Zach, over to you. Rashee Rice. Let's talk about it.
The human mind strives to categorize. It wants to group things into boxes to make them easy to recall and quick to access. We do it with songs. We do it with people. We do it with wide receivers. Rashee Rice refuses to be pigeonholed, though, and I think it's exactly this versatility that will make him divisive in the dynasty community and potentially valuable for your fantasy team. At 6 foot, 200 pounds, and I think that's around where he came in at the Senior Bowl. So that's, I think, Matt, he lost 2 inches to get quick at the Senior Bowl. That's what happened. But Rashee Rice falls in the in-between. He's not imposing enough to impose his will on corners as an X-type receiver. He's not necessarily smooth or quick enough to win like a true slot receiver. In fact, Rice ran out of the slot just 30% over the course of his career at SMU, but interestingly, was deployed from the inside over 90% of his slot in 2021. So Rice is faster, I think, than he appears in route, often surprising defenders who underestimate his speed. And although he played primarily split out wide, Rice worked a lot from the outside in. He's not afraid of playing across the middle of the field. He'll punish defenders post-catch with a physical running style. And Matt, I love this, and you mentioned it. Rice is also a very intelligent blocker, both setting the edge in the run game and also getting downfield after a pass to block for his fellow receivers. To me, that speaks not only that he'll go do the dirty work, but also that he's intelligent enough to understand what's going on and what needs to be done. And I love that in a receiver.
And those aspects alone, and again, stepping away from the actual evaluation for a second, those are the things that feel like gets him not just on an NFL roster and not simply on the field, but just consistently having opportunities to be able to make plays. I think the question does become, is it just one of those things that's nice? It's nice to have, or is it need to have in the specific NFL offense? And I think that's obviously to be determined. Zach, coming right back to you when we're looking at Rashee Rice, talk to us about some of the things that you may not love about his game.
Yeah, as oppressive as Rashee Rice's 1,300-yard season was last year, there are definitely still some warts on his profile. As an outside receiver, he lacks that deep speed to consistently beat man coverage over the top. He relies primarily on opposing corners getting lulled into underrating him. Rice also isn't particularly dynamic as a runner once he's got the ball, eschewing avoiding tacklers in favor of brute strength. So I think he does run after catch, and he's very physical after catch, but he's not escaping people. And the biggest flaw, I think, of Rashee Rice's game is his tendency to struggle with clusters of drops and double catches that drives me batty. In today's NFL, I think versatility at wide receiver is becoming a sought-after commodity, and Rashee Rice has shown the ability to win over the middle from both the slot and split out wide. While he probably doesn't ascend to a team's primary weapon, man, he's got a chance to be a super producer as a second option at the next level.
And that is the kicker, Zach, when you're looking at a player like Rashee Rice, and I'm trying to keep my words few because I love what I hear from you guys. When you look at a player like Rashee Rice, and for so long, we have valued the ability to catch the ball cleanly. We value that here at the Dynasty Dummies. It's something that we want to be able to see consistently, and it's helpful when we know that the hands are trustworthy. The craziest thing is, as we continue over these years, yes, hands do matter. But I think that for me, I have overrated in many instances how much it matters to NFL teams, the ability for them to be able to get targets and consistently drive those targets moving forward. Again, that's just more of a piece that I wanted to make sure that I highlight when it comes to my specific process this year. Yes, I still want to see it. It can certainly be a plus, but I don't know that I'm dinging folks as badly when it comes to the hands piece as I have in the past. That versatility is so crucial. Foreman, talk to us about the things, any drawbacks that you have regarding Rashee Rice.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was interesting was that he gets a bit lackadaisical when he's not the first read from his quarterback. It just seems like, I don't know if it's just that's the way that the offense was working, but it just seemed he was a bit disinterested in the play when he wasn't the primary read from Mordecai. He was a bit slow out of his breaks when I was watching him on film, but he was a lot different at the Senior Bowl. So I'm not sure what happened there. I mean, could be coaching. It could have been the work. I mean, he's probably working with wide receiver coaches to get ready for the Senior Bowl and for the combine and everything. So I'm hoping that's a sign of things to come. And again, he wasn't getting pressed much in college, but he did well of it at the Senior Bowl. So something to keep in mind there as well too. But again, I think the versatility is key there. I just don't know if the versatility is going to be a detriment to, because he might be a man without a home rather than being his versatility being his ultimate downfall.
Yeah. I have so much hope for Rashee Rice. We'll move on to the next player on the evening. Golly, two weeks in a row with this awkward, strange, orange. Cedric Tillman of Tennessee Volunteer fame, approximately 6'3", 215 pounds. Had his senior season cut short via injury, unfortunately, and obviously would have loved to have seen a lot of what he would have been able to do with Hendon Hooker and how much of an actual juggernaut that passing game became, specifically for the majority of the year until the very end. If we look at one Cedric Tillman, not to be confused with Memphis Grizzlies center Xavier Tillman, as I have confused far too many times. I'll just say that right now. In his junior season in 2021, 64 catches, 1,081 yards, 12 touchdowns. Again, number 3 in the SEC in terms of receiving touchdowns, number 5 in receiving yards. The guy is a player, and most certainly someone that people can look to and hope for prototypical X vibes from because of how massive the man is. The question becomes, Zach, is his game as big as his measurements?
I like it. Cedric Tillman's rookie profile walks a tightrope. More specifically, a knotless syndesmosis tightrope implant system procedure. I looked it up, and so if I have to know, you do too. It's the solution to the ankle injury that caused Cedric Tillman to miss all but 6 games in 2022. And if you're worried about that, it's the same procedure that Tua had twice. And it avoids complication with the screw in the foot, which is the bane of existence of a lot of NFL injuries to feet. So he should be rehabbed, should be better, should be good to go when we get to the NFL season. Similar to his teammate, Jalen Hyatt, I think Tillman is exceptional in a straight line. But unlike Hyatt, Cedric Tillman doesn't win with otherworldly speed. Instead, Tillman is excellent at sinking his hips and changing directions on curls and comebacks. This is especially evident against zone coverage. And on top of creating separation coming back to his quarterback, Tillman is also a tremendous deep ball tracker and can win at the catch point against most corners. Once he's got the ball in his hand, Tillman uses his big frame to bully defenders, adding yards after the catch with physicality.
Feel like just triggering the song, Alexa, play "You Might As Well Be Shading Out the Sun," because Xavier Tillman can. Xavier, see, I did it already. Unbelievable. Not even trying, just with ease. Cedric Tillman can do that. That's enough. I've said way too many kind things about too many Tennessee Volunteers over the last 2 weeks. Foreman, I'm going over to you. What do you have for us regarding Cedric Tillman?
So I'm not sure what I was watching, but I have in caps here written "junkyard dog." I don't know why. I'm thinking that was because his ability to play in traffic. This guy can take a hit at the catch point and hang on to the ball. He wins with a variety of moves at the line of scrimmage. He's versatile. I think he has some great routes that he can run with his comebacks, comebacks and curls, as well as he runs a very sharp post route as well too. He's physical in the route, using his hands legally to create separation, and he's got great body control on top of the things that Zach already mentioned. Tillman was someone who I think is getting slept on a bit because of the season that Hyatt had. But let's not undercount this season that Tillman had in 2021.
Listen, Xavier Tillman, I do think, again, it would have been really cool to see him and Hyatt be awesome compliments to each other in that offense. But again, Xavier Tillman, for as much as we would have wanted to see from him and the encore from that junior season, obviously not the perfect prospect. Or what do you got for us, the things that you may not love regarding Cedric Tillman?
Uh-oh, is Matt frozen?
I think he might be.
Oh, no.
I thought it might have been me.
No.
Strong. Strong freeze. All right. Well, Zach, I guess it's over to you to carry us home regarding Cedric Tillman.
Speed kills, but a lack of speed and quickness leaves Tillman's NFL potential on life support. Whether it's his initial release off the line of scrimmage or Tillman's transition from a receiver to a runner, he just doesn't have very much suddenness. And I think this contributes to his struggle with separating against man coverage. Tillman has a habit of creating that initial contact with the defender because he is such a physical player. He's looking to exploit that strength, but he has trouble re-separating. And so it makes tougher catches and tougher throws, which not every quarterback is going to be interested in making. Cedric Tillman is a big, physical wide receiver who excels when a possession is on the line. He reads cushion well and will probably have some splash plays at the next level, but I think he ultimately falls just short of what we're looking for in a fantasy producer.
Yeah, and we often talk about quarterback types, and he very much slides into the see it, throw it category in terms of quarterbacks who want to see him open before they actually throw it. So, one, are you going to be trusting Cedric Tillman to be able to make those plays? Yes, he's been able to show it in a season. Is that something that an offense is going to be trusting him to do? And is it going to be something to where he's going to get that opportunity often enough? The world may never know. That's enough about Cedric Tillman. We're going to transition now over to Marvin Mims, our fourth wide receiver on the evening. And I think I was aging Marvin Mims a little bit more than I originally thought. I basically had him catching passes from Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray, and he wasn't there for all of that. Majority of his time was with Spencer Rattler, with Dylan Gabriel, and still a couple of fine collegiate quarterbacks in terms of fine offenses, and was able to do his thing in 3 years at Oklahoma. This final season was his finest: 54 catches, 1,083 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And I think he originally busted on the scene back as a freshman when he scored 9 touchdowns. And people were really excited about Marvin Mims, even though he was slight of frame. I think a lot of folks were really excited to be able to see what he was going to be able to do because of his big play ability. Literally being someone who led the Big 12 in receiving yards per reception for 2 straight years, in 2021 and in 2022. I think people will want all of that big play goodness. People will want all of those wonderful fantasy points that come with players who don't need a ton of targets to be able to make it happen. At approximately 5'10", 5'11", 177, are we going to see Marvin Mims be someone who fulfills the promise that came from that freshman season where he was scoring all those touchdowns in that pass-happy offense? Foreman, I ask you, Marvin Mims, what is the verdict, my good man?
Yeah, so I came away a lot more impressed with the Mims than I was anticipating. Did you know Marvin Mims is the single season record holder for high school yards in a season? By the way, with like 2,600.
Golly, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, Mims plays bigger than his size. Again, willing and effective blocker. Got great body control. He wins more 50-50 balls than you would think for someone of his size. He's got great sideline awareness. He tracks a deep ball well. He wins with multiple moves at the line of scrimmage. He gives you enough after the catch. He's not like some jitterbug, but he gives you enough there. He seems to be open like all the time. Like I know, Zach, like you mentioned that play with Alabama when he was I remember I saw you posted it in the chat, and then I'm like, what is he talking about? And then as soon as I saw that in that game, I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about, where Mims is just wide open. And then there's another play where he's like the most open I've ever seen a player in my entire life. He's just open like there's no one 30 yards around him. And I don't know if that's the system at Oklahoma or just Mims's knowledge of finding those deep spots in the zone. And I'm thinking if it's happening this often, probably going to be the latter.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, you're good. He does a good job getting what does it. Okay, we're past out. Uses tempo to help create separation, and he can play over the middle and win at all three levels. So really nice, well-rounded player with Mr. Mims. JMic, do you think he's any relation to our good friend old Sticky Paws?
This is why I'm hot. Listen, if he is, he's gonna need to disassociate himself real fast.
I couldn't find any on 247 of relation to Denzel, so probably for the best.
Oh man, I love me some Denzel Mims so much. That probably is one of the larger swings and misses of players that I was like, yes, give me all the old Sticky Paws. Golly. Hey, you live and you learn. It happens. We miss. I will say, for what it's worth, again, friend of the program, Jake Anderson, formerly known as NFL Draft Talker, currently known as @JakeAndersonPGA, is a big fan of Marvin Mims. He was a big fan of Marquise Hollywood Brown when many weren't, and said that he might be too small to actually do anything in the NFL. Obviously proved everyone wrong. He was also a big DK Metcalf fan when DK was coming out and everyone said that he couldn't make cuts and things of that nature. So for what it's worth, an eye that has an eye for talent, Jake Anderson's a big fan. Zach, where do you land on one Marvin Mims?
So I was surprised by Mims as well. I think that being fast enough to get over the top of defenses is a sure way to turn heads of NFL scouting circles. And having a receiver on the outside whose speed constantly pushes defenses to fear opens up an offense's options exponentially. Marvin Mims, coming off a final year at Oklahoma with 54 catches, 1,083 yards, and 6 touchdowns, is one of the premier burners in the 2023 class. Mims gets up to top speed quickly, using his top gear to beat defenders en route. Once he gets past the corner, Mims is an excellent deep ball tracker, and he makes adjustments to haul in huge chunks of yards. While his big playability will be what gets Mims noticed, I think really underrated is his ability to create yardage on underneath throws. Mims transitions really quickly from a receiver to a runner, and it allows him to use his deadly speed in yet another facet of his game. And like you said, Matt, he'll mix it up as a blocker in spite of his slightly smaller frame. I think Marvin Mims may be what everybody is hoping Jalen Hyatt is.
Ooh-wee. Listen, you're gonna get people's attention when you say that, Zach. That's really interesting to hear, and I think that for many, and let me do this real quick. Let's take a quick step back. We'll take a quick step back from the actual tree and let's see the forest for a second. As far as actual grades, Zach, I know you probably have this on hand. Does Mims grade out better than Marquise Hollywood Brown, who I feel like a lot of the similar ways that they would win? Again, same school. I'm just curious in terms of how you viewed Marquise, his film grade versus Marvin Mims.
I'd have to dig for my other notebook to get you an actual accurate, but they're similar players. I think I had Hollywood graded just a little bit higher because it was the only knock I had on Marquise Brown was size. And that's been a profile that has I've stuck to my guns with that, because more often than not, I feel like I'm going to be right by saying this undersized speed player is not going to be successful for fantasy,
right?
Even though they can be successful for NFL. I do think Mims does enough with creating in space and in short areas where you can run him on bubble screens, or you can run him on a quick slant, or you can run him on an out, and he can catch the ball and turn and make extra yardage. And I think that's the thing that he has that somebody like Jalen Hyatt, who we talked about last week, when Hyatt catches the ball, he's taking 2 steps back before he goes. And Mims is immediately putting pressure on the defense by attacking and gaining yards.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Zach, I'm coming right back to you in reference to things that you may not love so much about Marvin Mims' game.
Yeah, most of Mims's damage is done from the outside, where he has plenty of space to use his top end speed. But where he gets into trouble is when he ends up over the middle, where defenders can use that physicality to bully him off routes and out of position to make catches. Mims isn't as sharp out of his breaks, often rounding cuts, which allow quicker defenders to close ground on short and intermediate routes. That field stretcher profile is generally more valuable to NFL teams than to your fantasy team. However, I think Mims can grow into an intriguing flex play week to week because he's got big game potential. He's got the ability to win over the top, but he's also got the ability to break one with his speed. It's that ability to break off chunk plays and long scoring strikes that I think has some value.
Certainly the ability that we want to be keeping an eye on, probably not building your draft strategy around. Again, one of those guys that I'm really curious how the NFL is going to value him here in the next few months. Foreman, over to you so that we can turn the page on one Marvin Mims. What's the word on drawbacks?
Sure. So after I deciphered my typing here, he does a good job about getting his arms out to be able to present a good target as a pass catcher. But when he lets that ball get on him, he gets very droppy. So I think that's similar what happens, but it was very evident with him. Again, it's similar things with what Zach said as well too. Physicality and route, then things of that nature with his size. How much is he going to be able to play bigger than that size at 5'9", 5'10", 175 pounds? How does that translate to be able to being more than just a deep play threat that you're going to be able to have that volume to be able to produce as a receiver for your fantasy football teams? So an interesting player that I thought that I wasn't sure how much I was going to like, but someone who I came out that I liked more on film. It's just, again, where is he sitting at in terms of how is the NFL going to, if he's sitting there, if he goes off in the second round, then I think I'm having more interest in him than if he's sitting there in the third or maybe even fourth round. So again, I think how the NFL views him will definitely will weight highly with me as well too, as it should with all these players.
Understood. 2 players left on the night. And again, thank you all for riding with us as we walk through this. The second to last player that we'll highlight for the evening, one Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State, we're looking at a pretty large fella, 6'3", 210 pounds. And after his time in the JUCO ranks, Xavier Hutchinson went stupid at Iowa State. Just absolute production out the yin yang. And again, you think a guy coming from JUCO, you wonder, okay, what's the viability like? Is this going to be a Brandon Ayuk situation, or is this going to be the likes of many others who get a lot of hype out of JUCO and don't quite get it done? Listen, when you play with the man, the myth, the legend, Danny Gray, listen, we understand that sometimes you can be held back because that speed from Danny Gray is something fierce. However, once he got to Iowa State, yes, with the legend that is Brock Purdy back in 2020, he was able to bust onto the scene, 64 catches, 771 yards, 4 touchdowns, goes to 83 receptions, 987, and 5 touchdowns in 2021. And then for that bonus special NCAA extra special, come on back because COVID jacked up everything, 107 catches, 1,171 yards, 6 touchdowns. The man was number 1 in the Big 12 for receptions. His ability and what he was able to put on film in terms of what he was ranked in the Big 12, obviously for receiving yards, receptions, yards from scrimmage, the guy made things happen left and right in an offense that we've looked up in the past, and we've seen some fantasy viable receivers. And again, I'm not helmet scouting. I'm just simply saying Hakeem Butler, someone that people were excited about. Alan Lazard, also from Iowa State. Xavier Hutchinson proves to really be able to do some really fun things. Zach, let's talk Xavier Hutchinson. Are you feeling the X-Man?
The unexpected can be really beautiful. In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin by accident. He left a shelf full of Petri dishes while he went on vacation to Scotland. And when he came back, he found a mold, Penicillium notatum, that had taken over the dishes and prevented the normal growth of the bacteria that he was studying. Xavier Hutchinson's film was just as unexpected to me. I kind of felt like I was going to come in and find a sink full of dirty dishes, but that's not what I found. After spending 2 years struggling to command targets at Blinn College, Hutchinson arrived at Iowa State and immediately took over the top wide receiver slot. Hutchinson's a very good possession receiver, consistently getting open on quick curls and outs. He's exceptional at reading cushion and countering how his defender reacts, and even driving how the defender reacts, which I love as a receiver. Hutchinson has sure hands, and once he secured the catch, his transition to a runner is possibly the quickest out of anybody I've seen in the class. He routinely adds 2, 3, 4 extra yards onto a play with contact balance and physicality to boot.
X-Man's gonna be one, and you highlighted one of the things that are one of my favorite briefs. His ability to sit in his zone, his ability to make the most in traffic. It's not that he's wildly jittery or anything of that nature, but the man is consistently getting what you would hope that he's able to do. Oh man, let me stop because I could go on for a while. Matt, let's go to you. Was Xavier Hutchinson one who was as much of a surprise to you as it was for Zach?
Maybe not as much, but definitely a surprise as well too. Some things obviously that Zach said. He's got great body control as well too. Nice job hand fighting the line of scrimmage. Serial chain mover. I think he is the prototypical possession receiver in this class. He's a safety blanket for whomever is throwing the ball to him, whether it was Purdy or like the lefty from there is escaping my name for some reason. Started with a D. He gives enough after the catch. He can be shifty and very physical as a runner, and he does an excellent job winning in the short intermediate areas as a pass catcher.
Yeah, Xavier Hutchinson again, and especially when you think about what he can offer for NFL teams, I will find it interesting what it looks like for him to be leveraged and really deployed to be able to maximize those strengths that he's able to do. Again, And with so many other players in this group, what does the fantasy viability look like? Remains to be seen. Foreman, talk to us about Hutchinson's drawbacks.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern there is where he does a great job winning in the shorter intermediate areas. His deep ball skills have yet to be untethered. Whether that be again because of Iowa State, they had other options there, or if that's just maybe not that may not be a part of his game, and we're looking at a Pierre Garçon type player who's going to just function as one of those possession chain movers. Another thing that was interesting with Hutchinson that I hadn't really ever noticed before is when he goes to the ground, he drops the ball a lot. Like he just can't complete the catch when he goes to the ground. And it's something I thought may have been just something I saw, but I saw it 3, 4, even 5 times. It's just one of those weird things is why is he not being able to control the ball? So when we're moving on to those harder hitting players in the NFL, which the Big 12 defenses are always going to be Big 12 defenses. But is that something where physicality at the catch point, where he's going to the ground there as well too, where he's not able to hold on to the ball? How's that going to affect him from scoring fantasy points? Where there's the times where he was able to get open more than 10 to 15 yards downfield. Is that something that's ever going to be part of his game? And I think to me that limits his upside to a certain extent in my mind.
Now, Foreman, when is a Big 12 defense not a Big 12 defense? When it's an SEC defense. Hello, Texas and Oklahoma. A little bit of riddle there for you that I'm going to laugh at. Not many others will, and I'm totally okay with that. But what's funny about that, Foreman, is when you say that, there will be games where you get to the fourth quarter and that man would look like he was like toast. Like, y'all have thrown me the ball so many times. I am exhausted. Can we please get someone else involved? Zach, let's close the book here on Xavier Hutchinson. Talk to us about some of the cons to his game.
Well, the 2023 class is really bereft of big-bodied traditional X wide receivers. And although Hutchinson is that 6'3", 210 pounds, he's not going to fit that bill either. He does not play with much speed in route or after the catch. He really relies on being savvy to succeed. Hutchinson struggles to separate if he has not outsmarted the defender. Once contact has been made, Hutchinson really does not have the skill set to break that contact. And he also flounders against press coverage for similar reasons because he's unable to dictate that engagement. Although Xavier Hutchinson's overall ceiling is capped by a lack of elite athleticism, the things he does well have the potential to translate into startable production for fantasy. I think Hutchinson can win from the slot or split out wide against off coverage, but ultimately probably struggles to drive enough volume to be a true difference maker for your fantasy team.
There you have it. Last and certainly not least, I tell you what, at least not for one of us here in this group, we are going to Happy Valley. This is 2 years in a row where we get to highlight a Penn State wide receiver, one Parker Washington. Listed some spots, 5'10", 212, running back vibes there in terms of his build. In the 3 years at Penn State, we saw essentially his, his normal sophomore season, not the COVID sophomore season, be the one. So 2021, where he had 64 catches for 820 yards and 4 touchdowns. In this final season, 46 catches, 611 yards and 2 touchdowns. And probably the most impressive piece to anything that Parker Washington was able to do is that he was able to leave his collegiate career with Sean Clifford as his quarterback and be someone that people are excited about at the next level. That, my friends, is noteworthy to no end. Foreman, the first word goes to you. Last year, you were a little tepid on Jahan Dotson, your boy coming out of Penn State. Weren't sure about how that was going to work out for him at the next level. I know you love your Nittany Lions. Please introduce to some and present to others Parker Washington.
Man, y'all need to leave Sean alone. He didn't ever do anything to y'all. Y'all act like he said something bad about y'all mamas or something. Never did anything wrong to y'all. Let the man let him work, let him live. Come on now. On to Mr. Washington, where you know what I mean. It's gone too far. Parker Washington. Parker Washington's been someone that's been on my radar for obviously a long time as a Penn State fan. Someone who was getting a lot of hype coming into even spring and summer ball, that he was a player who has been making strides even before he had played his first actual down for Penn State. So someone who came in quickly. He basically asserted himself as the number 2 wide receiver as a true freshman in that weird COVID season. And he's someone who's been making plays for Penn State since then. He's extremely hard to bring down with that running back size. I think he might have the best hands in the class. He's got excellent body control, which you have to when Clifford's throwing those off throws. Very shifty. He's a savvy route runner. He's quicker than fast. And unlike some of those guys who we mentioned, like Zay and Mims, he plays way bigger than his frame in terms of his actual like physicality, and he can go up and win some 50-50 balls as well too. And he's able to win great tracking of the deep ball. He's got quick, sharp breaks. He's got quick feet, and something you definitely want to see out of these guys, because Parker Washington's a pure slot receiver. He's a slot receiver through and through. Is he plays over the middle and can get physical at the catch point and through his routes as well too. So I told Riley after or during Washington's freshman season that he was dollar store AJ Brown, and I'm sticking by that.
Ooh, listen, we love some AJ Brown around these parts. Now, what does dollar AJ Brown have in store? I guess we'll have to find out. Parker Washington, he and Kayshon Bouquet, currently both 20-year-olds, a little bit younger than the majority of the class. He'll be 21 at the end of this month. Zach, one of the younger players in the crop of wide receivers, Parker Washington. Let's talk about it.
I want to know if dollar store AJ Brown actually costs $2.99, because everything at the dollar store now it's like $3.
$1.25.
But there's little doubt that Penn State has become a pipeline for pass catchers who are planning to play in the NFL. Parker Washington follows the recent lineage that includes Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, KJ Hamler, Jahan Dotson, and Dan Chisena. It's going to be tough to follow that up. Parker Washington is a compact receiver who does most of his damage out of the slot. He is especially adept at beating zones, finding holes both underneath and in between levels of coverage. And this is something that I have been looking for out of my slot receivers more and more as I continue to evaluate. I think at the next level, that's a really nice trait to have. Washington has tremendous hands. He's strong at the catch point in traffic, and also brings the ball into his body quickly once he has it. This allows him to protect the ball from coming loose nearly regardless of the situation. And even though Washington is sub 6 feet, he packs 212 pounds onto his frame, and he uses that to punish corners after he's made the catch. And Washington is one of those rare receivers who runs with contact balance.
Absolutely. And I think Parker Washington's probably the first Penn State wide receiver that I've liked since Dan Chisena, since we're talking about it. So I'm just messing with you. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I tried to keep a straight face and everything. I failed miserably. Zach, coming right back to you, man. As we get ready to button up the night, Parker Washington, we like him in tight areas. We like him to be able to have that contact balance and maximizing the most from those runs after the catch. Take us through some of the things that you don't necessarily enjoy about his game.
While being in the right place at the right time is certainly a skill, I think Parker Washington sometimes gets overly reliant on it. Neither his speed nor quickness really stand out, so Washington uses his savvy to draw targets. Against quicker corners, I think things start to unravel a little bit as Washington is unable to separate when he's faced with really good man coverage. And although he excels at beating zones, he does occasionally drift too far which closes those easy throwing lanes that he had created for his quarterback, and his quarterback needed some easy throwing lanes. 2023 will be the first opportunity that Parker Washington will have to catch passes from an NFL caliber quarterback. While he's not ever going to be a number one option at the next level, I think Washington has enough potential pieces to his game to produce from a complementary role.
Listen, there you have it. I mean, could have been catching passes from first round pick upcoming Will Levis, but hey, you win some, you lose some. I guess the only question becomes, Foreman, if I have my receipt, can I please bring it back? The Parker Washington dollar store, AJ Brown.
Yes, but there's a no hate on Sean Clifford return policy. So, also, I believe Washington caught some passes from future first overall draft pick Drew Aller as well too. So he did catch passes from an NFL caliber quarterback. So let's just keep that in mind as well too.
If that's what helps you sleep at night, whatever you need, man.
Hey, it helps me sleep great at night knowing I have Drew. It helps me sleep great at night knowing that Drew Aller is the quarterback for Penn State for the next 2 years. It helps me sleep fantastically. 2025. You think I'm having fun now? Wait till we get to 2025. We're gonna have 2 running backs to talk about and a quarterback at Penn State. I'm gonna be sitting in hog heaven.
Incorrigible.
Yes, exactly. We're gonna have a whole podcast about Penn State players. They're gonna get a receiver by then too. It's gonna be glorious.
Go Black Bears.
What was the name of the main wide receiver we talked about a couple years ago? No. It wasn't
Isaiah Coulter.
Isaiah Coulter, but right. I remember we also did Coulter go to Maine? I remember that Coulter came on. We were talking about Maine when the very famous The Hilldozer played Maine. We were talking about that.
Yeah, he had 200 yards against Maine. Give us the negatives on Parker Washington, will you?
Sorry. Anyways, I digress. I think you're right. I think he does struggle a bit against man as well too. But I think that's something that's going to be he'll be able to overcome. Like he's a pure slot receiver. He's not super fast. So again, those quicker corners are going to be something that he could struggle with as well too. But again, he's going to be playing in the slot, something that's not considered with. He's not going to be having to deal with as much because those guys are typically on the outside. But in today's NFL, I would say more times than not, these defenses are playing in nickel anyways. So the ability to have that third starting corner is something that defenses are starting to have now. So I'm with JMic as well too, that I think that Parker Washington has been the first wide receiver from Penn State I've been really interested in and someone I will be targeting, unlike Dotson. But hey, Dotson proved a lot of us wrong. He had a great rookie season, and we don't know that rookie season would have looked like if it wasn't for the injury. So, but I do think Washington, again, something that how the NFL views him is going to be something I'm going to take interest to. I can really see him getting day 2 capital, especially if he runs fast. And for some reason, not for some reason, shout out Dwight Galt. These NFL guys, these Penn State guys always show up at the combine and always run faster than we think they're going to. And they put on a show there. So we'll see what happens there, but I'll be interested to see what his 40 time is. But something I'm not worried about, but if we can get him in the 4.5s or the high 4.4s, sign me up. Even more so than I already am.
Shout out to Penn State legend Troy Apke, who went and broke the combine with his speed, safety. A few years back, I remember that was
now he's
amazing.
Not even in the league.
Hey, you win some, you lose some. Also, go ahead and put it on your all's calendars for March or probably February 2025. We'll have a Nittany Lions night for the Dynasty Dummies, and it'll be hosted, run. It'll be a one-man project. Matt Foreman just waxing poetic for about, 24 hours on all the goodness that's going to be coming out from Penn State.
Have you watched Nick Singleton play football?
He's good. He's really
very good. He's very good. Did you watch the Rose Bowl? Come on now.
As we finish up here with week 2 of the Dynasty Dummies Rookie Hootenanny, we've got 12 receivers that we've scouted now. it's fun to be able to see the board start to take shape in terms of these film grades that we're giving. And I'm curious to see how you all have these things stacked up. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Zach, we'll start with you. Where or how or who do you have where or how or when?
I'm going to give you all 12 because I've got all 12. So I've been struggling with this, and I know I gave you Jackson Smith and Jigba as my one last week. I felt disingenuous because, and I've talked to Russ, Dynasty Outhouse, Russ Fisher in DMs when I was watching these two. Jordan Addison I had graded out a half point higher than Jackson Smith and Jigba, but my take lock continues to have JSN at 1. I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, it's tough.
I'm struggling with that. I'm still going to have JSN at 1, but so JSN, Jordan Addison are that top tier. Quentin Johnston is 3 in a tier by himself. Kayshon Boutte is 4 in a tier by himself. And then I got a really kind of a glut of wide receivers. It feels a lot like what the top was last year when we talked about wide receivers. I've got Zay Flowers, I've got Rashee Rice, I've got Marvin Mims, and I've got Josh Downs, all in a tier. And then the next tier is Xavier Hutchinson, Parker Washington, Cedric Tillman, and then bringing up the rear is Jalen Hyatt.
That sounds beautiful to me. I mean, if you could just bump Cedric Tillman down a little more, that'd be, no, I'm just playing. I'm kidding. For those who are Tennessee fans, I'm just joking. Relax. Foreman, over to you. You can give us your 12. You can give us the 6. Whatever you're comfortable.
I've got my 12. I've got my 12 here. My top tier is the exact same as Zach's, in the exact same order. JSN, Addison, right there. I don't see a reason why you would have them. I can see if you're wanting to put Johnston in there. That's not the way I do this. I think there's too high of range of outcomes there for me to put him in that top tier. But again, y'all do you, I'll do me. My second tier, it looks a little bit different than Zach's, obviously because he only has one player. That's where I have Johnston. I have Tillman in my second tier. I really like Tillman. I think he could be that Cortland Sutton type player that we wanted Sutton to be. That's Corey Davis type players. I have Zay in that tier as well too, and then I have Bouquet rounding that out. Then I have my glut comes in here with these 5 guys. I don't know how to separate Mims and Washington because I feel like they're so dissimilar. It's hard for me to differentiate between the two of them. I'm gonna just give the slight edge to Mims for his upside about playing deep down the field, but I could see Washington overtaking him depending on draft capital. And then I kind of have Rice, Downs, and Hutchinson there, kind of all mixed in there. And then again, 3 tiers later, I have Jalen Hyatt.
Seems like each week there's even more tiers that are built in before you get to Jalen Hyatt.
I don't understand how he's getting mock drafted in the first round. I don't understand it. He's fast. Like, he runs straight fast. If we're having a track meet, yeah, he's might be my 101, but we're not having a track meet here. We're playing football.
Listen, like you just told people, hey, you do you and they'll do them. Zach, what do you say?
I was gonna say Mark Davis Zaddy. Like that's it. Like that's what it is. Like you only need one guy. You only need one guy.
Well, he got a haircut now too. Did you see Mark Davis got a haircut?
Oh, the Zaddy return. Oh my gosh. He would walk the card up there himself. Oh, with his chili bowl haircut. No, what's the haircut now for me?
I don't know, but I saw he got a haircut. It's like I think he got it like he just got it trimmed, so
Mark Davis.
Yeah.
It's killed me 2 weeks in a row. I wasn't even ready either time. Daggone it. Oh man. I think the one thing that I'll mention about your all's rankings, and I wasn't aware of this until now. I think for me, I'm gonna end up being higher on Downs than definitely than either of you all, because I've got him I've got him essentially graded out as my wide receiver 4. Like I'm really into Downs, and I do find, and I'm similar to you guys in that when I'm looking at kind of slotting these next guys or slotting the list of guys from tonight, I do have Zay and Rashee, but I've got them down below Bouquet, and just kind of going back from last week, I've got Addison and JSN in that top tier. Similar to you all, I've got, or excuse me, similar to Zach, I had Quentin Johnston there in a kind of a really unique tier of his own. Not just his film grade, but I do think that, and one of the things I'm really trying to fight is how I'm wrestling with his upside, and also with the knowledge that I know that he's going to get taken in the first round. And so I'm fighting back against some of that bias, but also going off of film grade too. Like it just is what it is. But then I've got Downs and Bouquet, and then that's where you start seeing a lot of these other guys come filling in. I've got Zay, I've got Rashee, I've got the X-Man Xavier Hutchinson. He's not in that same tier, but I've got him and Tillman and Mims in a tier. They graded, and again, how different of players all three of those specific guys are. They graded really similarly for me, which was interesting. And I'm sorry, I skipped over Parker Washington. I've got Parker Washington right behind. I've got Parker Washington right behind Bouquet as well. I really like Parker Washington. I just don't. I'll be really curious to see how he shakes out at the NFL and what that looks like. But film grade wise, I did like him quite a bit. Jalen Hyatt, peace and blessings to you, my brother. All the best as we go there, guys. It's been an absolute privilege, an absolute pleasure to be able to join you all again. And guess what, folks? Next week, where are we going, Zach? Where are we going next week?
It's the time. It's running backs. We're climbing the mountain. It's Bijan time. I can't wait. It's fun. We're running the running backs, the first 6 next week, the next 6 the week after. We got a tight end show with quarterbacks because, tight ends, quarterbacks, whatever, super flex, tight end premium, it doesn't matter. And then we're getting into the class participation portion where we're going to ask you, the listener, you, the audience, who we missed, who we overlooked, who we need to watch, who we need to talk about. And then we're going to hit those players up. If we get enough of them, maybe we drag that out into 2 shows. Some years we do that, some years we don't. So it'll kind of be up to what we get for input from you. So I'm excited to talk about this class. I still think it is the class that we've been talking about for the last 2 years. I think that maybe we framed it wrong for 2 years, but it's still that class.
The wrapping paper is just different. And I really find that to be interesting because people seeing this different, a little bit different wrapping paper than they anticipated, and they're like, I didn't ask for this. This isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I expected. It wasn't on my Amazon wish list. But I think we'll all be pleasantly surprised. Foreman, was there any takeaways when we look at these last couple of weeks? Anything that stands out in reference to rankings, what you've heard, outlook on the future weeks, anything as we close out?
Yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to separating these running backs out here after we get past the top 2. I think the running backs 3 through, 8 to 10 could be interchangeable for some people. So I'll be very interested to see how everyone grades these guys out, and looking forward to it.
Similar to the wide receivers, it'll be very compelling. I think it'll be really compelling to see how we have these guys graded out, where flags will be planted or what we'll be standing and really excited about. So again, thank you all for joining us. Zach, over to you. Close us out.
Yeah, I love it. It's the top tier, and then we're separating the wheat from the chaff, I think, and that's where the real work gets done. Well, appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate everyone in the chat. We had a pretty good audience this week, and that's fun. It's fun to see the chat popping. Fun to see the audience here. Appreciate you rolling with us. Like I said, we'll be back next week. JMic is at JMic Check. Matt is at Fat Mormon with 2 T's. I am at Tacit Assassin 13. This has been the Dynasty Dummies. Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Click that end.